People do business with people that they know and that they trust. That was one of the first lessons I learned in business. You can't just be transactional. You got to cultivate, develop, and build relationships that will last you over a sustained period to help you achieve your business goals. Welcome to our sponsor mini-series. This mini-series is designed to give you a deeper insight into 4 categories: workforce development, technology, risk management and insurance, and third-party administration. You're going to get an insight into the people and the products that's bringing the value to your business. Now, if you're like me, one thing I hate is to be sold something. It just doesn't feel right. Just give me the real answers. I'm going to ask the tough questions. Show me what you can do and what you can't do, and I'll make my own informed decision. And sometimes we'll find out if the solution doesn't work for you, but we're going to go deep. And if you find this interesting or you want to learn more, check out our sponsors in deeper detail. Go to their websites. But when you call them, make sure you use that L12 discount code because, they're giving you free money. You might as well use it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the mini-series. I'm Jason Burns, your host on The Last of First, and I'm excited for you to learn, uncover, and discover what can work best on your Last of First journey.
Hi, I'm Arthur Axelrad, CEO and co-founder of Dispatch Science, and you've just watched the Last of First podcast with Jason Burns. Keep watching.
Welcome back to season 2 of the Last of First podcast, the place where you come to learn about the final mile, everything from first to last on your journey to success. We've created these mini-series in certain categories. Today's is going to be on technology, and it's sponsored by a company that is leading in this space from a dispatch management standpoint. A lot of solutions, a lot of innovation, and it's Dispatch Science. So joining me today on our first episode of our mini-series with technology is none other than the co-founder and CEO of Dispatch Science, Arthur Axelrad. Arthur.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we get into the actual mini-series, I want this one to first be about kind of your journey, your story, and really what the solution, where did the idea behind Dispatch Science come from. But I want to go back to the first time we met, which was at one of these conferences. And it had to be around 2000, maybe 19, something maybe late 18, 19.
18, 19.
Yeah. And I was walking through the floor, the exhibit floor, and learning about the new vendors and who's coming into the industry. And I saw this company, Dispatch Science, and had never really heard of you guys before. So I went over, introduced myself, and then we actually started talking about the technology. And I was just in awe of what you guys had built, being really relatively new to the space. We'll talk about your background in a second, but I thought had very forward-thinking solutions and technology that I knew had we not been maybe, we were close to selling QCS at the time. And so I think I told you, like, hey, if we had more time, I would certainly be all in, but right now it's just not a good time for us. So, but that was, 6, 7 years ago now? So much has happened since then. Your growth and evolution that I've seen just from afar has really been tremendous. And so tell me a little bit about your background, yourself. Where did the idea of Dispatch Science come from?
Well, Jason, my co-founder, Alex, and I had identified that there was a big gap in the logistics industry. In the space for final mile carriers and couriers, there was a lot of legacy product being used that was really holding companies back. It was impacting their ability to compete and leverage the new technologies that were available at that time.
Yeah.
We had experience with other companies with whom we'd done some work and got to see exactly firsthand how they were working, what they were doing, and really how they were hamstrung by using old technology that was just no longer fit for purpose.
Got it. So you experienced it with clients. So you were already operational as Dispatch Science. So your background, did you come from a background in logistics or?
Well, we had already we were working as a software development firm.
Okay.
We had a team, we'd been operating for a number of years, and we had concluded some projects for companies, some well-known companies in the industry where we had done some specific work for them.
Like some add-on work, trying to help them.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
Okay.
So we're just doing some customization, creating new product, but things for those companies.
Yep.
And that entire journey exposed us to the industry, to those companies, to the market, to the space, and we were able to say, wait a second. This is really like, if you think about it, this was kind of around the time, just shortly after like Amazon and Uber were making a big splash, a lot of waves in the industry, scaring a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The cloud, right? The cloud computing was becoming very prominent. So the game was changing.
Yeah.
The rules were changing and the options were different. And we saw like, oh my God, here's an opportunity where There's companies that are, like I said, using these older technologies, and they're forced to now go to market and grab add-on, bolt-on, third-party solutions and try to make them talk. So they're doing things like importing files, exporting files, loading. Nothing's in real time.
Yeah.
It's just jumping through a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
And what we said was, well, what if there was a system that was built cloud first? Not as an afterthought, not where mobile apps are like, oh yeah, we better do that. But we start with that.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at those key pieces of technology, and that's when we said, you know what, if you had a piece of software that spoke this language, that had these underlying concepts built into it, not as an afterthought, but built into it from the get-go, well, that's going to be a competitive advantage that everybody in this room should want.
Yeah. At that time, you had this inflection point of the shipper and their requirements and the way they wanted to talk to carriers was changing. And it meant that the carrier that saw the technology as a inherent part of the solution, just as much as the driver is, the vehicle is, those were the companies that will ultimately position themselves to win like in today's time. All right. So let's talk about that. Let's start getting into where Dispatch Science was then, but put a pin in that time. That was 20.
Yeah. So 2018 was our breakout year. That's when we launched the system in 2018.
Got it. Okay. And so today, just paint a picture, fast forward, that was consulting kind of with a couple clients to now. Give me a sense of the number of customers you represent. Where are they located?
Sure, yeah.
Driver side, just give us a sense of your clientele.
Right. Well, from then to now, we today probably have over 150 companies running on our platform, over 20,000 drivers in the fleets across the board. We recently published some case studies with some of our premier clients that we're really proud of. So I want to give a quick shout out to American Expediting, the team over there that just did a bang up job where we implemented the software. We did one implementation with them. So what was particularly amazing was with American Expediting that we did one implementation for them that they were then able to replicate and go on and do 7 others on their own, where they consolidated multiple systems into one in only 9 months.
Now, why that's so important? Because somebody's going through integrations and just in one office, one location. That took about 9 months, just me doing it with a team of probably 10, 15 people. For them to do that in 9 months across, that's a big company, many locations. Why is that important for a customer when you're looking at technology solutions? It's not just the solution itself, but how easy it is to integrate it to your team.
Implementations are tricky, and they have been for many years. And that was part of what we wanted to develop within our platform, was put in the tools and ways for companies to leverage the technology to make the change management easier, to make the implementation faster.
In the delivery business, efficiency is everything. And that's where Dispatch Science gives you the edge. Their modern, cloud-based, AI-powered transportation management system optimizes routes, tracks orders in real time, and automates processes to save you time and money. If you're serious about scaling your business and staying ahead of your competition, then Dispatch Science is your next move. So visit dispatchscience.com today and give them the L12 discount code where you'll get 20% off your first month's invoice. Now back to Last to First.
We've created tools to handle integrations to third parties, which used to be extremely long and challenging.
Expensive.
Yeah. So I'd like to think that we did a pretty good job at taking an engineering first approach to those problems and looking at how to compress those times, compress those cycles so that it could go faster.
Got it. So that was really a great point, because I know one of the things that really attracted me to your solutions, back when we first met, a New Orleans boy, right? So we deal with hurricanes every year, pretty bad ones too. So part of my responsibility was to always, in our hurricane prep plan, was to go literally get the server that we operate off of, put it in my vehicle, drive it to a backup location about 45 minutes from New Orleans, and my parents' condo in Gonzales. Had to network it, do this all in an hour, so we're only down for an hour because we service a lot of hospitals. That was not a great plan. So talk more about the infrastructure of the solution itself and why that's important, not just to be able to operate in today's world, but from a real physical standpoint when you have a situation like this.
As I mentioned earlier, the new technology is a game changer. It was a game changer at the time. And what it did was, what made possible was cloud computing. We run a serverless architecture. What that means is you have no servers to worry about. There's no physical server that you can see or touch. It all happens in the cloud, and it all happens in a scalable and elastic fashion. So, for example, even if the data center did get impacted by the hurricane, it's okay. There's dozens of other data centers throughout the world that automatically go online and pick up the load. And then the other benefit, you didn't mention it, but when you talk about the architecture, it also takes into account the impacts of seasonality on your business. So if you're now suddenly getting busy with peak season, well, the server automatically, in an elastic fashion, scales, grows, expands to handle the load. And at night, if you're not using it, well, it shrinks back down, which is good for everybody. It cuts the costs, and it makes it super efficient, and nobody has to think about what they call as provisioning. Nobody has to think about setting up and buying, renting, preparing hardware, or doing backups or any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah, you can operate like you're in the 21st century.
Exactly.
That's another good point when you talk about the architecture. You were one of the first people that I think started using like AI, where I heard AI started at a conference, again, 7 years ago. Now it's all we hear about now. But a part of that infrastructure is the system is smart. I don't want to say you can fully dispatch it remotely. I mean, not remotely, autonomously. But I know there's a lot of the features in the system are built with AI. Talk a little bit about those features that are involved in the product.
There's different facets to how the AI works and how those features work. And it's a combination of AI and algorithms to solve problems.
Okay.
So we use AI in our route optimization to look at how routes are optimized, look at dispatch decisions, and have the AI learn from all of that information so as to feed the system now and support the system with better decisions. We use algorithms to essentially mathematically look at a workload,
okay,
and make a recommendation or an automated solution that says, well, the fastest, most cost-effective way of delivering this workload across this fleet is this series of routes and stops. So our system can automatically receive a huge amount of data. Could be anything from taking a trailer that's receiving and then having the system do the entire loadout and creation of routes.
Okay.
And for each route, putting the stops in sequence in such a way as to have the most dense stops, which means the least amount of wasted time. And like I said earlier, because we built our system to be carrier-centric, it understands the concepts that a pickup has to be done before delivery, that a 2-hour service has to be delivered before a 4-hour service. It understands dwell time, it understands capacity, and it builds routes factoring those things in.
All right. So dumb that down for me, right? Just what does that mean for my bottom line? Like as a carrier who's operating in an industry with very tight margins, what does that mean to me in terms of my pocket?
Well, more stops per route, less wasted time, less driven miles means more profit. More profit for the driver and more profit for the carrier.
Now take me through that, because obviously I have experience trying to work with solutions on route optimization. This industry, we're built on customization. This is not UPS, FedEx. It's not a cookie cutter route. Every day can be different. Every minute is different. So when I think about route optimization, my first questions are, okay, first, are you able to take on-demand stops and put them into like a route? The system can do that?
Yes.
Okay. So the second thing I think about is stop number 8, like an AI tool or the automation may say this should be stop 8 based off of the time and the geography, but we know stop 8 needs to be stop 2 because Miss Sally at the bank, she's got to have it in the early morning. Can it do that?
So the system is flexible, and what it does is it applies the rules that you as a carrier would configure.
Okay.
If you as a carrier specify that this is a VIP customer or that this is a customer who has a faster service or an appointment time, then even though it might be 5 miles longer, it will go first because it's an appointment time that has to be respected.
Okay, and the third thing I think about, is it iterative? Like, can it get smarter based off of prior history, prior attempts, prior deliveries? Like, how's the AI actually configured into this?
The AI is what makes it iterative, where it takes the information from past routes, past pickups, past deliveries, and it uses all of that to learn for the next time. How good was that choice? What was the actual result of what the driver did relative to the plan? How was the plan respected? Did the dispatcher choose to take a suggestion and accept the suggestion, or did the dispatcher say, no, that's not a good choice for some reason? The AI looks at all that information, and it's what feeds its future solutions.
So I love that. I love that. But the reality is, when I was operating a little bit a while ago, where I may get it understand, it was very difficult to transition this downstream into my dispatcher level. So how easy or how successful have your 150 clients been in actually getting this information downstream where it's implemented and executed?
Great question. If I look at our customer base, we have customers that are very much just on demand, and we have customers that are just last mile, and then we have a lot of folks that do both.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, it depends on the models of what the customers need and what they want. So what we did was we created modern user interfaces that are really visual, very easy to understand, and very configurable, where people can now set up their own interfaces, their own views based on the type of work they do. So we have one customer, as an example, that has nationwide coverage, and they have one dispatcher in one central location that's sitting there watching boards with drivers all over the country. Oh. And they can create views for themselves to differentiate the drivers in the Northeast, the drivers in the Southwest, you name it.
You give us a really good taste of kind of the solution, the gap you initially thought that was in the space, and some of the solutions, I should say, that you've now brought to the industry, into the marketplace. What do you see, next? When I talk to a lot of my guests on the podcast, I'm often interested to see, with all these changes and these different things happening in this space today, where they see the future going. And so one thing we know for sure is that we can only go as far as the technology that we're working with. So from your seat, what do you see happening? What is Dispatch Science working on to kind of help continue to close this gap?
There's a few things that for us are kind of top of mind. We know that shippers want to integrate with their trading partners, with their carriers. So it's not going away, the need for integrations. And even more so, they want those integrations to be tighter and faster. They want to make sure that from their e-commerce website, the real-time status of a delivery can be presented to their customers on their websites, on their portals, without having to go to third parties and other screens and all those things. And what that means is API-driven systems, API-compatible systems.
What is API?
So API is an application programming interface. It just means it's a real-time way that information can be exchanged between multiple systems. Okay. So instead of someone sending a file and somebody else going and downloading it and then uploading it back and forth, it's like a handshake. It's a real-time exchange between the two. What we're seeing more and more is these APIs where it's really computers that speak to each other. That's what's happening. The computers are speaking to each other and exchanging information at the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. That means that the ETA from your driver flows all the way from your driver to your system, from your system to your shipper's system, right up to the ultimate consignee.
Yeah.
So that's the API. And what has been challenging for companies has been the implementation of integrations between carriers and shippers.
Because this customization, because everybody wants it a little bit different than the next guy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we looked at it, and we struggled candidly at satisfying our customers when they would come to us and say, oh, I have an opportunity, so-and-so is about to give me a bunch of work. Mm-hmm. I need to have an integration is the only way I can receive that work. And I need it yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's challenging. It's unpredictable, and we have to move fast. And having struggled through that for a while, we said there's got to be a better way. Mm-hmm. And that's what our team did. They looked at it and they figured out a way to create a product, which is an integration platform. We call it Data Bridge. And what it does is it makes it possible now for carriers, shippers, third parties, individuals to create those integrations without having to come to a company like ours and get in line and wait.
So they can proactively
create their own.
So that way when it's RFP time and we get the bid win,
yep,
we got 30 days to roll up 10 locations, you're not sitting there saying, well, it's going to take 6 months to get integration.
Exactly.
If I'm a carrier, right, and I'm a client of Dispatch Science and I win, let's just say, I'll throw a name out there. Let's say it's McKesson. I win a big McKesson bid and they're going to start sending me a bunch of jobs. What do? I call you up. Like, what are my steps to execute?
Well, if you're using Dispatch Science, then it's available to you as an add-on module that you can use, you can license, and you can go ahead and start creating that integration. If you have a tech team, they can do it, or you can hire a third party, or we can provide the assistance as well. But the point being that you're no longer stuck or forced to wait for only one person or one entity that can bail you out.
Yeah. That's huge, because I know there's a lot of clients have struggled with that. Like you said, they'll win business, but can't hit the implementation timeline. Or they may hit it, it's rushed, it's not right. That's the worst thing you could do is start off on a bad foot with the new customer. Not only is it solving that problem for your customer, but downstream into your organization, right? Because as the driver, communicates from his handheld device, all this integrated back upstream to your dispatch team, to the customer. So it helps improve the internal management of your organization as well.
Yes, that's right. And it really, what it does is it speaks the language that the shipper wants. So we all know that in this industry, the shipper's the one calling the shots.
Yeah.
So they're the ones telling the carrier what they want and how they want it. And that's what DataBridge does, is it allows the carrier to serve that up.
So we heard some nuggets today. We heard about stop density equals profitability. That's a good one. We talked a lot about the technology of yesteryear and where the industry is going, and the bridges, literally the data bridge that Dispatch Science has created to help you when you win those RFPs with those shippers to quickly get it implemented and ready to go. And we also learned about how a modern AI-built solution can set you up for success in this competitive and dynamic industry. But I want to dig more into this route optimization. This was a pain point for me when I operated QCS. So on the next episode of our mini-series with Arthur, we're going to dig deep into route optimization. I'm going to challenge him on some of these solutions and see if it really does work. All right, so join us next time. Last of First, Season 2. Jason Burns, I'm your host. Arthur Axelrod, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason.